Hey everyone, back with another review, and this one will be another update because having done the update on the Atlas sheath, I had a look at my shelf and thought, what else could I maybe talk about? What else have I been using for a while? And what came to mind relatively quickly is this Solothurn Feder here from Kvetun. I think I've done the review on 2023. I think that was actually our last video in that year. I've been using it consistently since. Keep in mind though, this is just the update. If you want the whole review with the stats, if you want to see me fencing, if you want to see me using it, then just look down in the description. That is where I'll post the link. Here I just really want to pick up some points that I made during the original video. TLDR, just to get that out of the way immediately. It held up well overall. I would still recommend it, with one or two caveats maybe. And I still like it a lot. To the points I want to talk about. So one thing I mentioned in the original video is that the edges held up great, and that is certainly still the case. I do not think I needed to do maintenance once. They're still nice and rounded. I've used it against Regenier swords because people have that in my club. I've used it against historical fencing armory, light long swords, black fencer long swords, Albion long swords, and it held up great against all of them. And on the other hand, it also didn't chew up the swords I've used it against. So good combination really. That I really quite liked. A bit on the mixed spectrum is the grip that I talked about as well. So one thing that I was worried about, and I think that proved to be warranted, is that this leather really is on the softer side. So if you get this half historical configuration, or if you just order it with leather, then you do need to watch out a bit, or maybe overthink that choice, depending on what gloves you have. I mostly use softer gloves, so it doesn't really show up on mine, though you can see it on a point or two. Ulrich's glove, not Ulrich's gloves, his grip is quite chewed up here at the edges, basically where the wedge of the hand touches it, because the hard plate gloves that he uses just make contact with the leather, and because it is softer, it just really chews it up. You can see it on my grip here because I got a cut to the leather. A cut that wasn't actually that hard. It didn't really ding up the wood underneath it in any way, not even a scratch really, as far as I can feel. But the leather is soft and pliable and just chewed right through it really. So that's a bit mixed. It doesn't really, render it unable to use it. It's not a functional problem, but something to keep in mind, as I would say. Another thing that unfortunately also came back is the crackling. And yeah, I really think that it's just the wood is cracked along the lines here underneath the leather. And by now I think I'm also able to feel it. It doesn't keep the sword from functioning really, but it is getting worse, I feel. It's not to the point where I feel I definitely need to replace the grip, but I am kind of thinking about it. Or starting to think about it. Unfortunately, what I did with the super glue, which is what Kvetun recommended when I asked them about that for another sword, didn't really solve it. I think the stress just from the blade bending really is just too much for the wood here. So that, yeah, that's a bit unfortunate really. One thing I also mentioned in the original video is the weight. This is a weightier sword. This is not a light, agile sword that you can do with what you want. This is a sword that you need to take into account when you fence. But that is actually one of the reasons why I have been using it rather consistently. And not my Maya, which is the other longsword that I have, the Albion Maya. On the face of it, they're both great swords, and I both really like them. But I've been using this more recently, and that is because, partly, the weightiness of it, because it does make for more deliberate fencing. I feel I need to watch my body mechanics more. And on a more practical, maybe a bit individual reason, is also because it just weights more. Because I spend a lot of time in class not really training myself. I do the warm-up, well, the way our training is structured is we have an hour of warm-up basically and footwork and stuff like that. Then we have an hour of lead training where we go about techniques or just, you know, just things you do and try to develop the people that are in your club. And then we have an hour of time, or 3/4 of an hour, where we do free fencing, where you can just play, free play. And I get the warm-up and I get the free play. I don't get the part in the middle. So I spent a lot of time just standing around and, you know, observing exercises and stuff like that. And I do like using this because when you then fence people who have lighter and more agile swords, if you use this and try to keep up with them, it does give you a nice workout. So I like that as well. So as I said, overall, I would still recommend it. Just keep the grip in mind, and the edges really are a highlight. They hold up great. It's a fun sword. That's the update. Cheers.